Okay, let's dive in. So just think about your typical day for a second.
Hmm.
You wake up, maybe the first thing you do is grab your phone, right?
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, me too. Or maybe you stream some HD video over your Wi-Fi later, or I don't know, use an app to tweak your smart lights or
Oh,
thermostat.
all those little connected things we barely notice anymore.
Exactly. And all that amazing, seamless connectivity we rely on, it's all powered by something invisible, an absolutely crucial resource, radio frequency spectrum.
It really is the invisible infrastructure, the airwaves, you could say, the highways carrying all their digital stuff.
And the tricky part, the thing that's both fascinating and, well, a bit of a problem, is that this invisible resource is actually pretty limited.
It is, and that's the huge challenge we're really digging into today. Spectrum scarcity. It's a massive bottleneck most people don't even think about.
You've absolutely hit the nail on the head there. Our current way of managing the spectrum, it's a bit old-fashioned, almost like old city planning.
Right, like zoning laws from decades ago.
Precisely. You get a fixed plot, it's exclusively for one use. Cellular companies get their slice, TV broadcasters get theirs. Emergency services have their own dedicated bands. It's called static spectrum allocation.
And while that worked okay for a while.
It just isn't keeping up now, is it? Not with the crazy growth in wireless tech and our, frankly, insatiable demand for data.
No way. It's creaking at the seams.
And the research we're looking at today really highlights this. It points out how some frequency bands, like for our phones, are overly crowded, just jammed.
Constantly congested.
While others, and this is the kicker, particularly the traditional TV spectrum, are surprisingly underutilized, like really empty.
It's like having these huge empty office towers right downtown in a booming city, but nobody can use them because the zoning is locked in.
Exactly. It's not just inefficient, it's actively holding back innovation. Things like, super reliable smart cities or maybe widespread VR.
This whole imbalance, this inefficiency, it begs the question, right? How do we fix this? How do we make smarter use of this finite resource?
And that's where the really exciting part comes in, the visionary solution. Cognitive radio, CR.
Yes, CR is this incredibly promising technology. It's designed specifically to tackle this scarcity problem by being, well, dynamic, smart.
So instead of those fixed plots, cognitive radio brings flexibility. It allows these unlicensed users, let's call them secondary users or SU, to temporarily use spectrum that's officially assigned to licensed users, the primary users, or PUs.
And this is the absolute non-negotiable condition.
One.
They can only do this if they cause no or maybe extremely limited interference to those primary users. That's the golden rule.
That constraint is key. It's how you unlock those empty bands without messing things up for the existing users, without disrupting vital services.
Right. So our mission today in this deep dive is to really unpack how these cognitive radio users actually find those little windows of opportunity, those spectrum opportunities.
This whole detection process, it's called spectrum sensing, right?
All right. That's the term. Yeah. And we're going deep. We'll look at a specific advanced method called cooperative wideband spectrum sensing. Collaboration is key here.
Okay.
And then we'll tackle something critical but often ignored. The very real problem of imperfect communication between the devices doing the sensing, a weak link that can break the whole chain.
Ah, so the messages between them might get lost or garbled.
Precisely. It happens all the time in the real world, and it can seriously mess up the sensing results.
Okay, and then the payoff.
The payoff is we'll explore a clever but actually quite simple new algorithm designed specifically to overcome this communication problem.
Now, I know some listeners might be thinking, okay, this sounds super technical.
It is a bit technical, yeah.
Why does this matter to me? But this isn't just abstract theory, is it?
Not at all. This is fundamentally about making your devices work better. More reliable connections for you, faster downloads, smoother streaming.
And it enables completely new things, too, right? Like maybe truly seamless augmented reality or self-driving cars talking to each other instantly or, I don't know, huge networks of smart city sensors.
Absolutely. Managing our airwaves smarter, more dynamically, that's how we get to that future. It shapes everything wireless for all of us.
Okay, so let's circle back to that root problem, spectrum scarcity. And then we can really dig into how cognitive radio promises to be the dynamic fix. We touched on this static allocation bottleneck.
Yeah. Historically, for decades, really, it's been exactly like that real estate analogy. Every frequency band, every little slice of the airwaves, treated like a plot of land for one specific tenant.
So cellular gets its block, TV gets its block, emergency services get theirs. Very rigid.
Very rigid. And it kind of assumes everyone's using their plot fully all the time, which just isn't true.
And the core issue with that, as the research makes so clear, is just massive inefficiency. Almost shocking, really.
It is?
The example used is perfect. Cellular devices are heavily utilized, whereas the television TV spectrum is underutilized.
Think about it. How often do you watch old-style over-the-air TV channels anymore?
Hardly ever. Maybe never for some people. Yet those big chunks of spectrum are just sitting there, mostly empty.
Like ghost towns on the radio dial. Meanwhile, our cell networks are groaning under the load, right? Your video calls, streaming, all that data.
It's completely unbalanced, unsustainable, really.
Yeah, this static approach, it was fine for maybe the 80s or 90s, but now it just creates jams in some places, like the cellular bands and huge amounts of wasted potential elsewhere.
And that directly caps what we can do. It limits new services, new tech, just the sheer amount of data we need to move around now. It's a real barrier.
We're hitting the limits of the management system, not necessarily the physical limits of the spectrum itself. That's a key distinction.
Right. So if static allocation is the problem, the bottleneck.
The cognitive radio, CR, is the dynamic, smart solution. It brings flexibility, adaptability, awareness into the rigid system.
I like that awareness part. It's like the system knows what's happening around it.
Exactly. Think of CR not as a tenant with a fixed lease, but as a super smart, observant tenant. They know when the primary tenant is out or just not using a part of their space.
And they can sneak in and use it.
Temporarily, yes. Secondary users, SUs, aren't stuck in their own little band. They can operate in those licensed bands, but only when the primary user, the PU, isn't actively using it. That's the core idea.
And the absolute foundation for making this work, the bedrock, is that SUs have to detect these unused PU moments dynamically, in real time.
This real-time detection, knowing when and where a band is free, that's spectrum sensing. It's the moment-by-moment awareness.
Because without that accurate sensing,
It all falls apart. CR would be totally impractical. CS would just cause interference everywhere. Imagine your smart fridge jamming police radios. Not good.
definitely not good. So spectrum sensing is really the key enabling technology.
Absolutely. It's not just a component. It's the eyes and ears. The brain really constantly monitoring and making smart decisions.
And if you connect this capability back to your own life, the potential is huge, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Imagine your home Wi-Fi automatically finding the least crowded channel in your building, or even jumping to a totally different, usually reserved band if it senses it's free for a moment.
So always the best connection no matter what your neighbors are doing.
Or think about emergency services, police, fire, ambulance, always finding clear channels, even during a major disaster when everything else is jammed.
That's the promise. This adaptive, efficient wireless future.
Now, when we talk spectrum sensing for CR, we're usually not just talking about finding one narrow channel free, like a single radio station frequency.
Right, because we need more bandwidth these days, more data.
Exactly. To really tap into those large pools of spectrum opportunities, as the research calls them, we need to look at wide chunks of spectrum all at once.
That's wideband spectrum sensing, or WSS.
Precisely. Monitoring and analyzing a broad range of frequencies simultaneously to find multiple free channels. And that's obviously much more complex than just checking one narrow band. You're dealing with a ton more data.
So how did people first try to tackle this wideband challenge, especially the cooperative aspect, CWSS?
Well, early approaches ran into some serious hurdles. For instance, some algorithms tried to sample the entire wideband at the Nyquist rate.
Nyquist rate. That means sampling really, really fast, right, to capture all the information.
Exactly. Theoretically sound, ensures you don't miss anything. But it came with very high sampling rate requirements. Imagine trying to photograph every single raindrop in a huge storm simultaneously.
All right, okay, so you need incredibly fast, powerful hardware.
Very fast analog to digital converters,
which
were practically demanding. Building that kind of hardware cheaply enough for everyday devices, a huge challenge, not really scalable.
Then came compressed sensing, or CS. Those algorithms sounded clever.
They were. Designed to relax those high sampling rates, get the info with fewer samples.
Yeah.
Sounds great. But the math behind them was complex, leading to expensive implementation. And for a lot of CR devices, think your phone, or a tiny sensor, which need to be cheap, small, low power.
Right, they have limited computation power.
Exactly. So these complex CS algorithms often weren't feasible. You couldn't stick a mini supercomputer in every device. It was a tough trade-off.
Were there other approaches?
Yeah, some tried to have different cooperating users sample different parts of the spectrum, kind of interleaving their efforts to cover the whole band without any single device needing a super high sample rate.
Sounds logical. What was the catch?
Well, it introduced its own problems. They needed higher control channel bandwidth requirements.
Meaning they had to use more spectrum just to coordinate who was sensing what?
Pretty much, yeah. Kind of defeats the purpose if your coordination eats up the resource you're trying to save. And worse, they ran into these subtle but critical synchronization frequency offset, SFO, and synchronization phase offset, SPO, issues.
Okay, SFO and SPO. Break those down for us. Why are they such a big deal here?
Great question. Imagine a choir. Everyone's supposed to sing the exact same note at the exact same time.
Right.
But some singers are slightly off-key. It's like a frequency offset, SFO. And others start just a fraction of a second late or early. That's like a phase offset, SPO.
The result is messy, not harmony.
Exactly. It's cacophony. For spectrum sensing, it means that different devices aren't truly listening at the exact same instant or on the exact same pitch. Their observations don't quite line up.
So you can't just add the results together reliably.
No, it makes it incredibly hard to combine their data accurately. If they're not perfectly aligned, their measurements might conflict or introduce errors. The central system can't get a clear picture of whether a channel is really free.
So high sampling rates needing expensive hardware, complex algorithms needing too much processing power, and then these coordination and synchronization headaches.
A lot of roadblocks. It seemed like it, yeah. But then this key insight emerged, a real shift in thinking. Maybe the secondary users may not require all the spectrum opportunities in the wideband, but require only a sufficient number.
Ah, so instead of trying to find every single empty channel,
Just find a few good ones efficiently. Don't map the entire landscape perfectly. Just find the open roads you actually need right now.
that makes a lot of sense, and that led to a new development.
Exactly. It paved the way for a more practical approach to cooperative wideband sensing, is where we're heading next.
Okay, that insight needing sufficient opportunities, not all of them, that really fuels this cooperative wideband spectrum sensing CWSS idea, doesn't it? Making the collaboration really powerful.
Absolutely. The core concept of CWSS is beautifully simple, really. Instead of one SU trying to sense alone, which is risky.
Yeah, it might be blocked by a wall or hit some local noise.
Exactly. Instead, you have multiple cooperating secondary users, CSUs, working as a team. They each do their own sensing, then share results with a central fusion center, the FEC, the brain of the operation.
And this distributed approach makes it more reliable.
Massively improves accuracy and reliability, especially in those tricky wireless environments. If one CSU is in a bad spot, others might have a clear view. It averages out the local problems, like having many eyes and ears instead of just one.
Does it help with other practical issues too, like device size?
It does, yeah. The research mentions how older techniques relying on antenna diversity on a single device needed physical separation between antennas.
Making the device bigger, right?
Right. Increased size of CR devices, not great for sleek phones or tiny sensors. CWSS gets around that by using spatially separated CSUs. Their physical separation is the diversity.
Clever. They collaborate to achieve diversity without making individual devices bulky.
Precisely. They share results, leveraging their different locations.
Okay, so within this cooperative idea, you mentioned a key evolution, partial band Nyquist sampling, or PDNS CWSS. How does that fit in?
PBNS directly builds on that sufficient opportunities idea. Why sense the entire wideband if you only need a fraction of it?
Makes sense. Don't waste the effort.
Exactly. So PBNS samples only the part of the wideband that's most relevant or likely to have free channels. This massively reduces the sampling rate compared to full band sensing.
Making it much more practical for the individual CSUs. Less power, less computation.
Yes, much more efficient. Focused listening, not exhaustive surveying.
So how does it work mechanically? Let's use figure 1 from the source. We have a wideband, bandwidth B.
Right. And conceptually, it's divided into, say, D smaller narrowband channels, each with bandwidth B0, so B equals D times B0.
Okay.
Now, instead of sensing all D channels, a CSU using PBNS filters out and focuses on just a partial band containing L channels, where L is less than D.
So if there are 10 channels total, maybe it only actively senses, say, 6 of them.
Exactly, like searching just a few relevant sections in a huge library instead of the whole thing.
And that partial band is what gets sampled.
Yes, sampled at a much lower Nyquist rate of 2LB0. Then a fast Fourier transform, an FFT, is applied to those samples.
Right, the FFT. You explained it like sorting out sounds in a noisy room, turning time measurements into frequency information.
That's a good way to think about it. It tells us what signals are present within that partial band, at what frequencies, and how strong they are.
And from that, you calculate the energy in each channel.
Yes, the decision statistic, which is basically the energy level. High energy likely means a primary user is transmitting. Low energy suggests the channel might be free. That's the core detection part for each CSU.
Okay, now let's zoom out to the full PBNS CWSS algorithm. We've got multiple CSUs sensing their partial bands. They report to a central fusion center, the FFPC.
Right, it's a centralized system. And each CSU might even have multiple antennas or sensing path, or these diversity branches, P.
And they combine the signals from those branches.
Using square law combining, SLC, it makes their local sensing more robust before they even send anything to the FTC. It's like intelligently merging slightly noisy inputs to get a cleaner signal.
Then they send their decision to the FSC. Is it complex data?
No, typically it's hard combining. Each CSU makes its own simple local decision. Channel X looks free and just reports that channel number, or simple yes-no, to the FTC. Concise conclusions, not raw data.
And there are these parameters that tune the system, SD, ID, SD, LD, FD.
Yes, those are key. SD is how many channels the SU needs. SD is how much interference is allowed. SD is how many channels each CSU decides on locally. LD is how many the FTC finally declares free. And FD is the fusion threshold, the number of votes needed at the FT.
Like a quorum.
Kind of, yeah. How many CSUs must agree a channel is free before the SC trusts it?
Let's walk through that example from Figure 2. 3 CSUs, M3. They only need one channel, SD, LD, SD1. The threshold is FD2, and no interference allowed.
IDSD.
Okay, so all 3 CSUs do their PBNS sensing, use SLC if they have diversity branches. They calculate energy for channels in their partial band.
Then they rank them.
Yes, using ranked channel detection, RCD. They order channels by energy, lowest first, most likely free. Since XD1 here, each CSU just picks the single channel at the top of its list and reports that channel number to the FC if it thinks it's free.
Correct. The FT collects these reports. It's like a tally sheet. How many votes did each channel get? Then it ranks the channels by votes received.
So in the example, CSU1 reports channel 1, CSU2 reports channel 2, CSU3 also reports channel 2.
Right. The FC looks at the tally. Channel 2 got 2 reports from CSU2 and CSU3. Channel 1 got 1 report from CSU1.
And since the threshold FD is 2.
Channel 2 meets the threshold. It's declared free. Channel 1 doesn't, so it's ignored.
Right.
If there was a tie meeting the threshold, the FT might pick randomly or use some other rule.
So it's all about efficiently collaborating to find a few probably good channels, not exhaustively proving everything is free. Smart, targeted cooperation.
Exactly. It avoids the cost and complexity of sensing everything.
Okay, that PBNS CWSS system sounds pretty robust, cooperative, efficient. Seems like a solid approach. But now we hit the snag you mentioned earlier, the real-world messiness.
Precisely. The often overlooked reality. Imperfect feedback channels. This is where things get complicated.
Because the assumption in a lot of earlier work was just too optimistic.
Way too optimistic. Many papers just assumed the reports from the CSUs magically arrived at the fusion center perfectly.
Yeah.
Without any errors, like a guaranteed, flawless delivery service.
Which is definitely not how wireless works in the real world.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Think about your own Wi-Fi or phone signal. It fades, it gets blocked, there's interference. Wireless channels are inherently associated with multipath fading and shadowing. Signals bounce around, get absorbed, get weaker. It's noisy out there.
So the consequences, that crucial information like the channel number a CSU found free can get corrupted or just lost entirely.
Yes, corrupted or simply discarded, vanished into the ether before it reaches the FTOC. And this can completely undermine the whole cooperative sensing process. It blinds the central decision maker.
How does that corruption or loss actually happen? The research explains it using Figure 3, right? With data packets.
Yeah. When a CSU sends its report, it's not just the raw channel number. It builds a digital packet. This packet includes extra bits for redundancy and, critically, an error detecting code like a cyclic redundancy check, CRC.
What does the CRC do?
It's like an integrity seal on the packet. The FTC uses the CRC to check if the packet arrived intact or got scrambled during transmission. It tells the SC with very high probability if the data inside is correctly received or not.
So if the CRC check fails?
If it fails, the FC knows the data is bad. And importantly, the packet is just discarded directly. It doesn't try to guess what the corrupted data meant. It receives nothing for that specific report from that CSU at that time. Poof, gone.
So it's an all-or-nothing situation for each packet.
Pretty much. The source models this probabilistically.
Yeah.
With probability P, the transmitted packet is discarded. So the chance of it getting through correctly is 1p.
Figure 3 shows this visually, right? Blue lines for success, red for failure.
Exactly. Blue for error-free reception, probability 1p. Dark red for a lost packet, probability p. It really highlights how volatile these individual transmissions can be. Lots of potential for lost information.
And the overall impact on the system's performance.
It's significant. The paper clearly demonstrates that the performance of CWSS is greatly affected by the imperfect feedback channels. All that clever sensing and cooperation can be seriously hampered if the communication link itself is unreliable, like having great sensors but faulty wiring back to the control room.
Did previous research address this at all?
Some papers did look at cooperative sensing with imperfect feedback, but mostly limited to narrowband spectrum sensing only, just looking at one channel at a time, which is a much simpler problem.
Ah, so the gap this paper fills is specifically looking at wideband sensing under these imperfect conditions.
Yes, that's the key contribution. The authors state it hadn't really been studied for wideband before, and their analysis shows performance greatly degrades. This is huge because it points out a major vulnerability for real-world deployment. It brings a necessary dose of reality.
Okay, so problem identified. Those imperfect feedback channels are a major hurdle, severely degrading performance. Now, for the solution proposed in the paper, repetition code-based CWSS or RCWSS sounds simple.
It is elegantly simple, and that's part of its strength. Channel coding itself is a classic technique, decades old, designed precisely to combat noise in wireless communication. And the repetition code, it's one of the simplest channel codes available. Basic, almost intuitive.
How does it work? Just repeat the message.
Exactly as the name implies. The important information, the detector-free channel number, is simply repeated a few times before transmitting. So instead of sending channel 1 once, the CSU might send channel 1, channel 1.
And how does that help with the packet loss issue?
Well, think about it. If the channel is noisy, high P, a single packet might get corrupted and discarded, right?
Yeah, right. Lost information.
But if you send the same information multiple times, even if 1 or 2 packets get lost, it is still possible to receive another transmitted packet correctly. As long as just one copy gets through clean, passes the CRC check, the FSC gets the correct information.
Ah, so it increases the odds of successful delivery through redundancy.
Precisely. The FCS only keeps packets that pass CRC, so any info it does keep is guarantee that the received information is correct. It's like sending multiple copies of an important letter by mail to make sure at least one arrives safely.
Let's trace the RCWSS algorithm then, using Figure 4 and Algorithm 2. How does it differ from the PBNS CWSS we already discussed?
A lot of it is the same initially. CSUs still use PBNS, still use diversity branches with SLC if available, still rank channels locally using RCD.
But the key difference is the reporting step.
Exactly. The key difference is the repetition, factor R. After a CSU finds a likely free channel, it prepares that packet with CRC, but then it reports it to FC by repeating them R times. If R2, it sends the packet twice.
How does the Fusion Center handle these repeated packets?
It's crucial. First, as always, it discards any packet failing the CRC check. Garbage in, garbage out.
Okay.
Second, it only keeps correctly received packets, ensuring accuracy. Third, and this prevents double counting if it receives the same channel number error-free more than once from the same CSU, because of the repetition, it only counts the CSU's opinion once.
Right. You don't want one CSU's repeated message to look like multiple CSUs agreeing.
Exactly. You only count the unique decision from each CSU, regardless of how many repetitions got through successfully.
Then the FC tallies up all the unique validated reports from all CSUs, ranks the channels by total votes, and applies the FD threshold to the top LD channel.
That's the process. Aggregate the reliable unique reports, rank, and decide based on the consensus threshold LD.
Let's revisit that Figure 4 example with R2. M3 CSUs, R2 repetitions, SDLD XD1, FD2 threshold.
Okay. CSU1 detects channel 1, transmits a level 1. Yep. First packet gets corrupted, FC sees X. Second gets through, FC sees 1. Net result from CSU1, 1 valid 1. CSU2 detects channel 2, transmits 2. First packet gets through, FC sees 2. Second is corrupted, FC sees X. Net result from CSU2, valid 2.
Right.
CSU3 also detects channel 2, transmits 2 and 2. Both packets get through error-free. FCC's 2-2. But the FCC only counts this as one unique report of channel 2 from CSU3.
So the FC's final tally is 1-1 from CSU1's successful repetition and effectively 2 2s. One unique report from CSU2, one unique report from CSU3.
Let's reread that example carefully from the source description for figure 4. Here it is. FC received 1-1 from CSU1 second packet, 1-2 from CSU2 first packet, and 2 2s from CSU3 both packets received. So the FC table counts channel 2 3 times, channel 1 once. My mistake in the initial count. Apologies.
Okay, so the FCs does count multiple successful receptions across all CSUs, but ensures it's not overcounting from a single CSU's multiple successful repetitions if they were reporting the same channel. Let's refine that. It counts the number of times a unique channel number is reliably received across all CSUs and all repetitions, but only counts a channel once per CSU per sensing interval.
That seems more aligned with the example outcome. Okay, so the figure 4 example walkthrough. FC receives the second one from CSU1, receives the first 2 buns from CSU2, receives both 2s from CSU3. The tally becomes channel 1 reported reliably once by CSU1, channel 2 reported reliably 3 times, once by CSU2, twice by CSU3, indicating strong confirmation from CSU3.
Okay, that makes sense. So channel 2 has 3 reliable reports, channel 1 has 1.
Right. And since the threshold FD is 2, channel 2 with 3 reports is declared free. Channel 1 with only 1 report isn't.
So that simple act of repetition dramatically increases the chance the FC gets enough reliable reports to make the right decision, even with packet loss.
Exactly. Simple but effective. It combats the unreliability of the feedback channel directly.
Okay, we've got the problem, the sensing methods, the impact of errors, and now this RCWSS solution. But how do we prove it works better? How do we measure success?
Good question. Traditional metrics like just probability of detection don't quite capture the full picture for wideband CR. We need metrics that reflect the dual goals.
Dual goals being find free spectrum A and D, don't cause interference.
Precisely. The research uses 2 newer metrics that do just that. Probability of insufficient spectrum opportunity, PISO, and probability of excessive interference, PAU.
POSO. That sounds like the probability you don't find enough channels.
Exactly. PISO, PRSD. The probability that the number of free channels you successfully find, S, is less than the number you actually need, AD. It measures if the system is delivering the opportunities.
And PEIO, probability of excessive interference.
PIO. The probability that the number of channels you mistakenly declared free when they were actually occupied, I missed ion channels, exceeds the maximum allowed interference level, AD. This measures how well the system protects the primary users.
So these are better because they measure both sides of the coin, opportunity and safety.
Yes, they're better suited for WSS because they explicitly factor in the required opportunities, SD, and the allowed interference. They capture that crucial balancing act.
How did the researchers validate their proposed RCWSS algorithm using these metrics?
They did 2 things. First, a complete theoretical analysis, complex math-deriving equations to predict the performance, PO and PIO, for both the original PBNS CWSS,
Right.
with and without errors, and the new RCWSS.
Building the mathematical foundation.
Right. Although for tractability, they sometimes use simplified scenarios in the analysis, like only 2 channels, needing only 1 opportunity, no allowed interference, maybe simple noise models like AWGN. Standard practice to make the math manageable while still getting key insights.
And the second part of validation, theory isn't enough on its own.
No, absolutely not. Crucially, they verified using Monte Carlo simulations. They ran computer simulations of the whole process, thousands upon thousands of times, 105 realizations, so 100,000 times.
Wow. To get statistically solid results.
Exactly. To show that the theoretical math accurately predicts what happens in a simulated, more realistic environment, it bridges theory and practice.
And did the simulations match the theory? Figure 5 suggests they did.
Yes. The paper highlights how the theoretical plots overlap almost perfectly with the simulation results across the board for perfect channels, imperfect PBNS CWSS, and the new RCWSS. It gives strong confidence that their analysis is correct and their conclusions are valid.
Okay, theory validated. Let's get to the results. What did they find? How bad is the impact of imperfect feedback? And how much better is RCWSS?
Figure 6 and Table 2 really drive home the impact of errors. They show clearly how increasing P, the probability of packet loss, significantly degrades the performance of the standard PBNS CWSS.
You can see the lines dropping off in the graph.
Clearly. And Table 2 quantifies it. If you fix the acceptable interference, PEIO till 0.02, the chance of not finding enough spectrum, PISO, jumps dramatically as errors increase. Goes from about 0.46 with no errors, P0, to over 0.56 with 30% error probability, P0.3.
That's a big jump. Over 20% worse chance of getting the channels you need.
Roughly, yes. A 20.90% increase in PISO in that specific example. It shows how real-world channel flaws directly hit the system's efficiency. fewer opportunities found.
So the problem is real and significant. Now, how does RCWSS compare? Figure 7 and Table 4.
This is where RCWSS really shines. The results show it clearly outperforms the PBNS-CWSS algorithm under feedback channel errors with just 2 repetitions, R2.
Just repeating twice makes that much difference.
A huge difference. PISO for RCWSS is nearly 23% smaller than for PBNS-CWSS at PEIO 0.05. And compared to other older wideband algorithms, even better. PISO is over 78% smaller than one cited method and over 72% smaller than another.
That's massive improvement. Why is it so much better? What's the core reason?
It comes back to that sufficient opportunities idea and being selective. Those other algorithms often try to make a decision on all channels in the sensed partial band.
Trying to find everything.
Right. But RCWSS, combined with the PBNS philosophy, focuses only on deciding on the required number of channels. SD.
So if it only needs one channel, it focuses intensely on finding the single best candidate.
Exactly. As the paper states, deciding on more channels increases the chances of getting more free channels, but at the same time, increases the chances of interference. By being selective, RCWSS reduces the risk of those false positives, mistakenly calling an occupied channel free. Less interference means better overall performance metrics. It's smarter targeting.
What about the repetition factor R itself? Does more repetition always help? Figure 8 looks at this.
Figure 8 shows going from R1, no repetition, same as PBNS-CWSS, to R2 gives a big performance boost, like that 20% smaller PISO example.
But does R3 or R4 help even more?
Interestingly, not necessarily. The paper notes if we further increase R, we do not see any improvement beyond R2 in this specific scenario. RCWSS with R2 performed almost identically to the ideal PBNS-CWSS with no errors. P-0.
Wow, so R2 basically cancels out the feedback errors in that case.
It seems so. The key takeaway is we can eliminate the effects of feedback channel errors with minimum repetition length. Now, if the error rate P was much higher, you might need R3 or R04. But the principle holds. Modest repetition is incredibly effective.
Okay, one more parameter. The fusion threshold, FD. How does changing the voting requirement affect things? Figure 9 in Table 3.
EFT is about security versus opportunity. A higher B means the FTC demands more agreement among CSUs before declaring a channel free, more security against interference to the PU.
Makes sense. More consensus, less chance of a mistake.
And the results show this. As EFT increases, PISO generally decreases. Performance improves. Table 3 shows PISO with FD3 is over 21% smaller than with FD1 at PEIO 0.025.
But you have to be careful setting FD, right? Too high might be bad.
Absolutely. It needs to be chosen very carefully. If F's too high, the system becomes overly cautious and might miss genuinely free channels, increasing PISO again eventually. The paper suggests a higher FIT is more practical if there are more CSUs in the CR network. With more voters, demanding a higher consensus is less likely to stifle opportunity finding.
And briefly, other factors like more diversity branches or more CSUs, they help too.
Yes. The improvements there are pretty obvious, as the paper puts it. More diversity branches, P, mean better local sensing by each CSU before reporting. More CSUs, M, mean more independent reports at the FEC, better averaging, more robustness against individual errors. More data points generally lead to better decisions.
So it's all about tuning these parameters R, F, D, M, P to hit that sweet spot, that balance between finding enough spectrum and keeping interference super low.
That's the essence of it. Optimizing this complex system for real-world conditions.
Okay, let's wrap this up. We started with the big picture, spectrum scarcity. That static allocation model just isn't cutting it anymore.
Right. And cognitive radio offers this dynamic, intelligent alternative SUs opportunistically using PU spectrum. But accurate, reliable spectrum sensing is absolutely critical for CR to work.
Especially for wideband sensing. And we saw that many approaches struggled with practical issues, and critically often ignored the impact of imperfect feedback channels between the sensors.
A huge issue. This paper really showed how performance is significantly affected by the errors in feedback channels, a major vulnerability.
But then came the proposed solution, repetition, code-based CWSS, or CWSS, using simple repetition to fight back against those errors.
And showing superior performance. It effectively combats, even eliminates, the negative effects of feedback errors with just minimal repetition, making the whole concept much more robust and practical for the real world.
But no solution is perfect. There are trade-offs with RCWSS.
Always trade-offs in engineering. RCWSS requires higher feedback channel bandwidth, You're sending more data with the repetitions.
Which could be an issue for battery life or channel congestion.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
And it also means a slightly longer sensing time at the SC. The SEC has to wait for the repetitions and process them. Might be a factor for very time-sensitive applications.
So what's the next step? Where does the research go from here?
Well, the paper itself suggests a clear path. Explore more sophisticated channel coding techniques. Codes that might offer similar or better error protection, but with less redundancy, reducing that bandwidth overhead, and maybe speeding up the decision time.
Combining robustness with even greater efficiency.
That would be the goal, getting the benefits of RCWSS without quite as much overhead.
So for you, the listener, what's the final thought? We've dived deep into some complex stuff.
But it points towards a future where your wireless connection isn't just faster, but smarter, more adaptive. Devices intelligently navigating the airwaves, finding clear paths seamlessly.
All thanks to understanding and solving these hidden complexities of spectrum use. Imagine that future truly efficient, reliable wireless everywhere. What new possibilities could that unlock in your world? Something to think about.